Dear YouTube viewers, I am Vansworth Mackenzie. This video is called The False Name That Became Known as African People That Came Down from the Gentile People of Europe, that was designed to deceive us and to take us away from our true roots, that they name as African people, Negroes, and Black people. As I did explain before in one of my videos, that the name African people was taken from the Latin name Africa, spelled A-P-R-I-C-A, Africa. According to volume 13 of the encyclopedia, when they, the Romans, defeated Carthage in the First Punic War in 264-241 BC and set up a base in the northern part of the land of Am, that they named as Tunis, that became known as Tunisia. As I have also mentioned that the name Black people come from the name Negroes, which mean black people, and the name Negroes was taken from the Latin word Niger, which meant to the ancient Roman as dark-skinned people, that many Amite people of today was taught to see themselves as such and to embrace as their identity as a racial people. I want the viewers of YouTube to know that I have been watching different individuals on YouTube explaining where they think the name Africa come from, which was a false name that was given to the land of Am and its people. So these pseudo-historians even teach on YouTube that the land where Ham was living, that became known as Egypt, was called Kemet, which means to them land of the so-called blacks. According to what they were taught in the school system of the European historian to see things their way. As I have explained in my various video on YouTube, that according to the scripture book of Psalms chapter 78 and verse 51, there the scripture points out that Yahweh smote all or killed all the firstborn in what became known as Egypt, the chief of their strength in the tabernacle of Am. According to the Webster Collegiate Dictionary of the 5th edition, page 1014, there the dictionary explained that the word tabernacle that comes from Old French, that originally came from the Latin language of the Romans, that meant a dwelling place or a habitation where one lived. So what Psalm 78 and verse 51 is saying is that Am used to live in what became known as Egypt, that Am later named after his second son, who was known as Mizraim. So the land became known as the land of Mizraim. Also Psalms 106 and verse 22, there it mentioned that Yahweh did wondrous works in the land of Am, and terrible things by the Red Sea for the children of Israel, when he take them from out of the land of Am, that became known as Mizraim, and later became known as Egypt by the Greek settlers. According to the Webster Collegiate Dictionary, the name Egypt comes from Greek name Egyptos, that's spelled A-I-G-Y-P-T-O-S, Egyptos. But when this name Egyptos was translated down into what became known as the English language of today, it became known as Egypt. Genesis chapter 10 verse 3 and 6, along with the scripture map of 1890, clearly explain and show where the sons of Ham and his grandchildren used to live, that was started from what became known as East Africa, which was the various sons and grandchildren of Cush, to north of the land of Am, all the way to the land of Canaan, that the Gentile people of what became known as Europeans named as the Middle East, which is nothing but deception and lies. I must point out that Yahweh is the creator of all living, and all knowledge and true history come from him, because he invented knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. because he is the beginning of all things, and he was around in the beginning of time, because he invented the beginning and time. This is the reason why Yahweh spoke in Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 6, that he is the first and he is the last. This same word, first and last, was translated down into Revelation chapter 1 and verse 8 as Alpha and Omega, which this word Alpha and Omega is a Greek word that was translated from Isaiah chapter 44 that mean first and last. So what Yahweh is saying in Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 6 and Revelation chapter 1 verse 8 is that everything starts with him and ends with him. So the scripture is of true history that one can trust and believe as facts, that have the true history of how the human family of today came about. Because Yahweh is the author of the writing of the scripture that became known as the Bible by the Greeks, translators, that mean a book that Yahweh did only give to the ancient children of Israel for them to keep his laws and commandments and statutes, that it may go well with them if they stick to his laws and commandments. Many historians of today are pseudo-historians that come down from the Gentile people of Europe, and also that of the Ishmaelite, Mohammedan, Muslim people who became known as the Saudi Arabian people because of their conquest of people and their lands, for them to see things their way, according to what they want them to believe and to know. As I had mentioned before in my various videos, that the name Arab that gave birth to the name Arabia. According to the Webster Collegiate Dictionary, the name Arab comes from Greek to the Romans as Arab. When the Romans conquered and enslaved many Germanic people, then the name Arab became known in the French dialect as Arabi, that's spelled A-R-A-B-E, Arabi, referring to these Ishmaelite people of Ishmael, of what became known as the Saudi Arabian people of today. That is also mixed up with the European man blood that many of these people are mixed up with and are called as the Semitic people, which is nothing but false history and lies. The name Africa, as I did explain in my first video, that according to volume 13 of the encyclopedia, page 40, there it explained that the name Africa, that became known as Africa, in the Anglo-Saxon dialect that became known as English language, came from the Roman army when they were able to defeat the Carthaginian army in the First Punic War of 264-241 BC and set up a base in the northern part of the land of Am that became known as Tunisia of North Africa. This was way before the Third Punic War of Zama, when Publius Cornelius Scipio defeated the army of Hannibal with his ally army of Prince Massenia of what is now known as Morocco and Algeria. I want to point out that this name Africa, that's spelled A-P-R-I-C-A, that became known as Africa by the Anglo-Saxon Germany people, was way before Publius Cornelius Scipio defeated the army of Hannibal at Zama and named himself Scipio Africanus, that came down into the English language as Scipio Africanus. This name Africa that became known as Africa did not come from the Anglo-Saxon people when they were educated by the Roman Catholic Church, but it did come from the Romans. When reading from volume 7 of the encyclopedia, page 910, there it explained that the land area of what is now known as Algeria and Morocco was known during Roman time as the land of Numidia, which is very close to the land area of Carthage. When reading from Genesis chapter 10 verse 13, there the scripture explained that Mizraim begot Ludim, that's spelled Ludim, who was the first son of Mizraim. Looking at the scripture map of 1890, there it showed the land of Ludim that became known as Morocco, Algeria, and the land area of Carthage also. So the land of Ludim is what became known as Morocco, Algeria, and Carthage. This land of Ludim that became known as Morocco, Algeria, and Carthage is very close to the land area of the third son of Ham, who was known as Put, that's spelled P-H-U-T, that became known as Libya. But the name Libya is a Greek name that was given to the land of Put as Libya. When reading from volume 20 of the Encyclopedia Britannica, page 317, there it explained that the name Algeria and Morocco come from the family of Europe, who became known today as Europeans. According to volume 13 of the Encyclopedia, when the Romans conquered the northern part of the land of Ham in 264-241 BC, then they named the land of their conquest as Africa, which meant to the Roman a land that was sunny without winter or cold weather like that of Europe. So the name Africa that became known as Africa was chiefly applied to the northern part of the continent of the people of Ham that became known as North Africa, that the Gentile people of Europe regarded as the southern extension of the land of Europe. The Roman ruled the northern part of the continent and called an area south of their settlement as Africa, which eventually became known as Africa, which was an area of a Berber tribe community that was south of the land of Carthage. Volume 13 of the Encyclopedia Britannica explained that the Greek before the Roman conquest had called the northern part of the land area of the continent of the people of Ham that came under their rulership as the land of Libya or Aprike, that's spelled A-P-R-I-K-E. This word Aprike and Libya simply meant to the Greek a land that was without cold or winter. When the Romans came and conquered the land of Ham from the Greeks, they did not change the name Libya, but the name Libya was stuck to the land of Put as the country of Libya, and Put was the third son of Ham. This land area is still known today by its Greek name as the country of Libya. My reason for going so deep into where the name Africa and African people come from is to educate many Hamite people who may watch this video who have no knowledge of this history and who they are as a people. To gain knowledge from this video I have put on YouTube that I have written from my history book. I do hope these videos of mine may serve as an education to the younger generation of Hamite people who are growing up and who has been miseducated by the Gentile European and the Mohammedan Muslim people schooling system of their false history of lies and deception that have a great impact on many Hamite people's minds of today, according to what they were taught in the various school system of these colonial rulers to see things their way and to exist in their colonial world of today. Thank you, YouTube, for allowing me to bring out this video. I really appreciate it very much, and I thank you for giving me the chance to do so. And I hope that, as I mentioned, that this video might help a lot of Hamite people to come to a better knowledge of themselves and who they are, and of the great history that they are coming from that they have no idea or knowledge about. But again, my purpose and my true belief is to bring knowledge and enlightenment, not only to the people of our minds, but to other people as well. So again, thank you. Take care.